So today we're going to look at some more of the card reveals for the Tide Rises, and we haven't seen any of these yet. We do know there's a spring rework where the spring keyword activates automatically if you play your trap next to an artifact, which means I'm assuming these are all going to be trap related cards. Kind of gives it away, but anyway, let's go take a look at what we've got. Starting off with Trap Maker, Elf Bandit Soldier has 3 tags, which is nice for Harmony stuff, but for the scenario. Usually doesn't matter that much though. Deploy boost self by 3 for each face down trap, and we have 2 power and 4 provisions. So say you play a trap and then you play this, it's a 5. You play 2 traps and play this, this is an 8. Those traps would have to be in different rows to do that, because if you play the trap next to another trap, trap's an artifact and automatically spring now with the new spring rework. But it seems pretty decent. The only thing that might be annoying is which traps, because some traps, well, your traps go off, right, and then this becomes worse. So say you play like an incendiary trap, or incinerating trap, I mean, and then they play a unit, the trap flips face up, it's no longer face down, this is a 2. So either there's going to be new traps that make this good, or you're just going to have to kind of like play your traps at a time when the opponent's not going to trigger them. Like you think they're going to play a special or something, play a removal card, then you don't play your incendiary trap or something like that. So this one kind of depends on what traps you have. There's more stuff like Mahakam Horn that triggers at the end of the round or after several turns. This becomes a lot better. And if your opponent just, like, I guess in the high roll situation, your opponent's playing like no units, you're just playing face down traps with like a unit between them. Because like put a unit between a trap, you have a trap on either side. You could get this more than 8. I have a very hard time believing those traps will not be triggered. Although Yorvis Gambit, which is never really sees play anymore, which is kind of annoying because it's supposed to be like the trap card. Yorvis Gambit could get you 2 traps that, like a Mahakam Horn, that trigger at the end of the round or something, and then this could play for 8. The question is just how much you really want to play around your traps to do this. Well, we'll see. It seems interesting, at the very least. Because usually you want traps triggering as fast as possible, right? Just so you get the value. But if you want to save your traps for like a combo turn, you kind of do that with Reordain and Reordain at the end of the round. But maybe for like a mid-round combo turn or something, you set up a couple traps that trigger in 2 or 3 turns, and you do this. Could be interesting. But we'll see what the other cards are. Next up, we have the Hostage Taker, Elf Bandit Soldier again, 4 power, 5 provisions. Deploy seize an enemy unit with 0 or less power, and transform the seized unit into a Deadeye without changing its power. The maximum power is increased by 1 for each trap you played this round, so this potentially becomes extremely good. If you play 2 traps, you can seize a 2. Seizing a 2 is an 8 for 5, and becomes a Deadeye, which is relevant to Scoia'tael and the Elf synergies. If you play 4 or 5 traps, though, like say you play 4... so you use like Yorvis Gambit so you can get even higher than that. So you play 5 traps. This is a 14 for 5. That is removal and almost a banish because their card can't be revived. And it's not limited to bronzes, which I think the slave trader guy for Wildton, I think is limited to... No, he's not limited to bronzes. That's my mistake. I don't think he is. But yeah, some stuff's limited to bronzes. What am I thinking of? The Nilfgaard guy that swaps. Puppeteer, Master of Puppets. Like, he's limited to bronzes. This isn't limited to bronzes. So, potentially, if you just play a whole bunch of traps and there's some problematic card you can't beat, like, say they have a Sigvald. You played 7 traps, you just seize their Sigvald before they use it. Could be pretty good. However, 7 traps is quite a bit. So, in any case, I think this will be a very good card. Because if you're playing a trap deck, you can probably get to 4 or 5 traps in your long round and play these for really good value. So, this seems really good in a trap deck. It is going to be weak in a short round, though. You have to keep that in mind. But it has a lot of potential. Next up, we have Deception, which is a trap ambush. Appears to be a trap, at least. Ambush. There we go. Timer 3. Spawn 3 Elven Deadeyes on this row. Spring. Spawn 2 Elven Dice. So this goes really well with that first card we saw, right? 3 turns is enough that you can play 2 of the, like this and something else. With a 2-turn timer, like so you play this, then you play Crushing Trap, and then you play that first card we had, the Trap Maker, and it's an 8. So that could be something to do with this. Spawning 3 Deadeyes, so it's 9 for 7 value if the timer goes off. It's pretty good. And Deadeyes have really good synergy with the rest of the trap stuff. You have the Reordain, right, and Reordain. stuff like that. Yorvith boosting all the elves. So this has good synergy. It is a 7 provision, and it's a gold to traps. You can only have one of this, and it's a little expensive for a trap, but the traps are expensive in general. Like, considering traps a 5 provision. So you think you would probably want to play this. It's a really good setup. Yeah, this seems like a pretty solid trap just to put in the trap deck. Spawning the guys is also really useful because sometimes if you don't have your Reordain, like say you didn't draw your Reordain, you can really struggle to get points out. Like your traps can mess up all the opponent's stuff. Then you just like don't have any points on the board. So this actually creating bodies can be quite useful as well. And similar to like a Mahakam Horn, you can have this trigger at the end of your turn and then have enough points to win the round still if they passed early. Kind of like how it's a timer like Saskia is, right? So something like that. The timer triggers, you get the 3 guys, and then they thought they were winning the round, then they're losing the round. So kind of like Mahakam Horn, you got to play around it. But it's a very interesting one. I think this one's going to be pretty good. Next up, we have Sticky Situation. I like the addition of these more gold traps, because right now there's not, the ones that there aren't, there's not that many, right? There's Pitfall Trap, Horn, Stalking, the Mantis Trap no one ever plays. It gives poison. And then, what's the Serpent Trap? I like the addition of these ones. In any case, Sticky Situation is an 8 provision trap. Ambush, where your opponent plays a unit with 4 or less power, flip self. Okay. So it flips over to a different side. At the end of your turn, boost adjacent units by 2. Interesting. I was just seeing if the other ones had a flip self. Okay. So I'm guessing this is the other side here. At the end of your turn, boost adjacent units by 2. When your opponent passes while his card is face down, lock self. Spring, boost the unit in your hand by 6, then lock self. Whenever your opponent passes, decrease the values by 1. So this doesn't have resilience, they're only passing once. But so when they play a 4 power or less unit, you flip this. And then you get 4 points a turn until they pass, if you have units next to it. That seems pretty good. Let me just make sure I didn't miss like another side in the reveals here. I don't think so. I'm not going to read them. I don't want to get spoiled, but I only see 6 Scoia'taels, so... Oops, we went ahead there. Don't look. So yeah, this hits 4 turn. The thing of this is, they need to play a 4 or less power card. You have to have a unit on both sides of this, which isn't too bad, because I'm assuming you're playing Deadeye Ambush. You can always spawn a token at the end of the row, which gives you 1 unit. So as long as you have 1 unit, and you can always trigger this like, I guess the setup's not bad, right? You just go Deadeye Ambush Elf, play this Deadeye Ambush Elf, and then you've got the full setup unit on both sides, and they play a 4. That could be quite good, actually. Nothing about how easy the setup is. If you just start around by doing this and they play like an engine card, you're getting 4 a turn. Now I can see some really good value here. That would be very interesting, right? Like the opponent, you go first, you use one of your Deadeye Ambush charges, you put this in the middle, play Deadeye Ambush charge. The opponent plays some engine card that's 4 power or less. And then all of a sudden you get 4 a turn for the rest of the round. If that goes on for like another 7 or 8 turns, that's like 30 or so points, which is quite a bit. So this certainly has potential. It mostly just has potential. Now I'm thinking of how easy it would be for Deadeye Ambush to set it up with spawning the tokens, which makes a lot of sense with the card, right? It makes a lot of sense. So this could be good. It's obviously not amazing in a short round, but if you're like a round, I almost said round 4, round 3 with 4 cards. For example, you go ambush, this ambush. They play a 4 power card. You get 3 turns out of it, which is still 12, but they might not play that 4 or less power card if it's a short round. This certainly has potential, though. You just have to, I think you're going to have to rely on the Deadeye Ambush charges to set this up, instead of using the Deadeye Ambush charges to combo with Reordain, but it's definitely a good setup. But if they pass, you're only getting 1 a turn, right? Pass, you're getting 1 a turn. This could be very interesting. I like the idea here. And this is another card that goes well with that Trap Maker. If they don't play something early with this, it'll stay face down for a while. And then you get Trap Maker value, which is good. I think as long as you get 4 turns out of this, it's probably good. Although you probably want more than 4. 4 is 12. Or 4 is 16, I mean. Which is really good. 3 is 12. There's 2 units on each side, right? It's 4 a turn. It's not bad. This doesn't take as long to get values as I thought it might. Yeah, it seems pretty good, actually. I'm thinking about it more and more. Definitely want to try this one out. It's definitely one we'll have to experiment with to see if the situations where it's bad are too frequent. It's also worth knowing if the opponent has control cards, they can kill the things on the side of this. They don't boost, but then it's the end of your turn, so you can play something else next to it, and it'll get boosted as well. Definitely an interesting card. Next up, we have Reordain. Hopefully we pronounced that right. 5 power, 13 provisions. Elf Bandit Soldier. Deploy. If you played adjacent to at least 1 trap, play an elf from your deck. That's really, really good. If you play adjacent to at least 1 elf, play a trap from your hand. Okay. Trap from hand. Wait, this doesn't draw you a card when it plays the trap? Why would you want to do that? Maybe it's a typo on the card. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. The elf and trap are both from the deck. They're both played from the deck. It's just a typo on the card. This happens sometimes with the revealed cards because they're earlier versions. So they send them out for people to make the reveals before the final versions. Sometimes they send you like a changed text on the card or whatever. So this is probably a little mistake on the first version. They sent the cards out for the card reveal videos or whatever. So yeah, these are both from the deck, which makes this card absolutely insane. If you play this next to an elf and a trap, which I'm sure won't be hard, you get to play any elf and any trap from your deck in the same turn, not limited to bronzes. So you could play a trap and then you can play any trap, then tutor your Reordain. You can play any trap, then tutor your Scoia'tael. This is really, really good. This is insane setup too, because you can play that last guy, right? Any of these cards really. You could like go with a Deadeye, Elven Deadeye, and a trap on your first turn. You can drop this next to him, and then you get out the other trap, the Sticky Situation for the setup, and then whatever elf you want, and then all of a sudden you have an insane setup for a long round. You can also play this as a finisher, you get like Scoia'tael and whatever trap you want, but this just seems really, it seems very, very strong. I'm sure this will be a key card in the deck, but it certainly looks really good. If it replaces Simloss, though, in the trap decks, I would not mind at all, because I'm kind of tired of seeing Simloss and everything. But Reordain looking really good here. If you're playing a trap deck, you're playing this guy. You might just play the trap deck to play this guy. Are there any insane combos you can do with this? If you play as a finisher, you just get Mahakam Horn, right? Then the opponent passes. So you can go like, theoretically, if you play Horn. So you go like this, Horn, and then Eldain or Scoia'tael. Eldain would transform the trap, so maybe you don't want to do that. But you can play this as the last say. Just get the trap. It says I'm not sure which one to go first. I would assume it's trap effect first and elf effect first because they're in order. So you'd play the elf from your deck and then get the trap. And then you get the horn. That's really good. Yeah, I don't know. This card is just really good for traps. Certainly some combos you can do with it. And lastly, we have Angus Bree. Elf Bandit Soldier, 7 for 12. Good tempo on this then. Deploy for the rest of the match. Whenever you spawn a Deadeye, boost it by 1. Well, that's really, really good. If your starting deck has at least 4 traps, they're unique. Starts in your hand. Alright, so if you play Deadeye Ambush, and then you're playing Waylays, for example. So you're playing Waylays. And you're going to play 4 Waylays throughout the course of the game. Well, 4. So you're playing 4 with Simloss and 2 before that. We got the other card that spawns 3 Deadeyes is now, instead of being a 9, is worth 12. It's really big. It's 3. That's 3. let's say you play 2 Waylayers and Simloss with 4, that's 6. Probably one of those is from the, say one's from the scenario. That's 12. That's 12 additional points just there on your Deadeyes. I think the bigger thing here is the Reordain play, right? So say you have 7 or 8 traps round 3, like trap players like to do, and you play Reordain. That's 7 or 8 additional points on your Reordain. This card is very, very good. The question is, do you need it to fill out the trap deck or not? Because you have Reordain usually you want to play, right? You've got Scoia'tael. You've got this guy. You've got the last one we just saw. That's a lot of high provision cards. So I think it'll be telling to see how many things fit in the deck, but I'm pretty sure you play this for your elves to get bigger and then your Reordain finisher. So this looks really good. And obviously starting in the hand's insane for this because it's an effect you want to have ongoing. Kind of like how whenever you're playing something like Vesemir Mentor, you want to have that boosts all your Witchers in your deck. You want to make sure you can get it off round 1, or something like Tamara Stringer. You want to make sure you can do that round 1. Because even though you can boost all those ones are less of an example though, because those are boost them all immediately. This boosts them when they're spawned because it's a token. So for the Vesemir Mentor example, if you're playing something that spawns a bunch of Witcher tokens like Skellige Witchers, those won't be boosted because the effect only boosts them from Vesemir Mentor when you play them. Whereas this will boost them for the rest of the match, no matter if they're spawned or whatever. They're only going to be spawned. So I'm guess, which means if you purify a Deadeye token and then you replay it with something, it won't get boosted, but this is obviously really good for the deck. But yeah, those are the trap cards, aka Scoia'tael cards. Looks pretty solid overall. I do like that the traps are going in more of a elf direction where they spawn guys, or you want to play units with the traps, so no unit traps isn't as good. Like this gives you something to interact with, you get the Deadeyes, although it takes time. This is a unit. This you want units next to. So I do like the way we're going here, where it's less about no unit traps in a round 3, and they actually are things to interact with from the opponent's board. But overall, I think traps might get a lot more interesting because of that, and maybe won't be so hated anymore. But I'm curious to see what other cards might get changed for this, and overall it looks like a pretty decent lineup. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed, and we'll check out some more cards pretty soon. That'll be it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more, and you can check out some more videos over here. And thanks for watching.